do you perceive when you look upon a gathering of the fair sex? Is it a bond of true sisterhood, a sanctuary of empathy, an eternal alliance of the heart? I charge you, be wary, for men are so simple and so subject to present necessities that he who seeks to deceive will always find someone who allows himself to be deceived. In my domain, the outward visage is but a velvet curtain drawn tight across a silent battlefield. While men are so primitive they resort to the fist to claim their station, the daughter of Eve conducts a more refined warfare, a clandestine struggle waged through the calculated grace of speech and the lethal precision of a glance. In the kingdom of smiles, she who fails to conceal a blade behind her pleasantries is vanquished before the first trumpet of war is even sounded. This day we shall strip away the mask, not to offer moral castigation, for he who neglects what is done for what ought to be done sooner effects his ruin than his preservation. I do this so you may discern your true place. Are you the one who holds the sovereign scepter of influence, or are you merely the lamb, fattened by false kindness, awaiting the day of sacrifice?
Act 1. Mapping the terrain. The Order of Silence. In this silent court of shadows, one must realize that power is not measured by the weight of the fist, but by the acuity of relational intelligence. While men are so simple that they resort to physical dominance to establish their station, the daughter of Eve builds her hierarchy upon the shifting sands of public sentiment and group approval. She knows that to rule is to govern the consensus. She does not demand obedience through force, but secures it through the subtle calibration of the collective will. You must understand that in the feminine principality, there is no punishment more absolute than social exclusion. It is the civil death penalty. When a woman is perceived as a threat to the established order, the sovereign circle does not issue a formal declaration of war. They simply turn their backs in a coordinated, chilling silence. This is the masterstroke of relational aggression, to extinguish a rival's social existence without ever striking a single blow, leaving her to wander the halls of her own life as a ghost, invisible and unmourned. This refined cruelty is not born of mere malice, but of an ancient necessity for survival. Since the dawn of our race, women have faced adaptive pressures that favored the building of alliances over direct combat to protect their resources and their progeny. They have mastered the tend and befriend response, transforming social bonds into fortified walls. In this struggle, indirect aggression is the most sophisticated weapon ever forged by nature, a tool of preservation that allows one to undermine a competitor while maintaining the flawless mask of the ally. Therefore, a true sovereign knows that the most radiant throne is often the most precarious. Real power does not reside in the light where it can be challenged, but in the shadows where the whispers are born. To control the narrative is to control the world. As I have always maintained, the wise ruler must be a fox to discern the snares, and a lion to terrify the wolves. But in this domain, it is the fox who wears the crown. He who controls the whispers in the dark room holds the fate of those who sit upon the radiant throne.
Act 2. The invisible weapons. The armory of the mind. The strategy of triangulation. We begin with the triple chord of discord, where a woman skillfully introduces a third party into the dynamic to spark envy, verify loyalty, or isolate a rival without ever raising her own hand. By positioning herself as the coveted prize between two competitors, she governs the interaction from a distance, ensuring her influence remains absolute while her direct involvement is cloaked in plausible deniability. She does not need to strike a blow when she can incite others to fight for her favor. The intermittent reinforcement, love bombing, and devaluation. In the governance of the heart, the wise sovereign understands the power of the emotional pendulum. She employs a cycle of extreme warmth followed by sudden, chilling indifference, a tactic known in the annals of behavior as intermittent reinforcement. By bestowing sweetness and then abruptly withdrawing it, she creates a psychological addiction, leaving her target in a perpetual state of craving her approval. Upon this, one has to remark that men ought either to be well treated or crushed, because they can avenge themselves of lighter injuries, of more serious ones they cannot. Therefore, the injury that is to be done to a man ought to be of such a kind that one does not stand in fear of revenge. By keeping the target off balance through this push-pull dynamic, the manipulator ensures the target is too emotionally bankrupt to seek vengeance and too desperate to walk away. The sound of the void, silent treatment. Next is the silent execution, a form of emotional blackmail that weaponizes the absence of speech to inflict profound psychological pain. This is a cold violence that forces the victim into a labyrinth of self-doubt, where they are driven to beg for the very forgiveness they do not owe. It is the ultimate display of dominance, to prove that a person's very existence in the social world depends entirely upon your acknowledgement. Finally, we observe the most sophisticated use of emotional intelligence, where empathy is not used to heal, but as a scalpel to find and widen a friend's hidden vulnerabilities. Through gaslighting, the manipulator uses her keen sensitivity to others' states to distort their reality. She whispers contradictions until her target believes they are descending into madness for even suspecting her betrayal, effectively turning the target's own mind into their most treacherous jailer.
Act 3. The art of the mask. Sovereignty of the self. I say then that to survive in a world where everyone is armed with hidden agendas, one must master the art of the sovereign mask. This is what the learned call social camouflage, the indispensable ability to adapt your outward behavior to the demands of the situation, while masking the true state of your soul. A wise woman does not neglect what is done for what ought to be done. She understands that appearing virtuous is often more useful for her preservation than actually being so. The gentleness of a woman is the most perfect shield. Behind it, she may observe the whole world without anyone suspecting a single true intention. You must realize that the common people, and even the most astute rivals, judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. By leaning into the cultural stereotypes of nurturance and honesty, you create a strategic blind spot in the minds of others.
While they see only the soft exterior of the lamb, they fail to perceive the steady, calculating gaze of the fox, observing their every move. The woman of true spirit does not waste her energy attempting to destroy the game. She becomes the master who directs it. She recognizes that emotional intelligence is a double-edged sword, a source of genuine connection when desired, but a mechanism for covert influence when necessary. She uses this acuity not for aimless cruelty, but to establish firm, unassailable boundaries that signal her self-respect and reduce the opportunities for others to exert control over her. Therefore, a sovereign must be a great pretender and dissembler, for men are so simple that he who seeks to deceive will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. Master the art of impression management. Appear as the most loyal ally and the most empathetic confidant, yet always hold your secret cards close to your chest. In this silent theater of power, discretion is not merely a virtue, it is the very breath of those who are destined to hold the scepter of their own fate.
Conclusion: the sovereign's final charge. Understand this, and let it be etched into your mind. To possess the sight to behold the darkness does not transform you into a creature of malice. It renders you invincible. Do not squander your spirit by hating this game of relational shadows, for it is not a choice, but the very essence of survival woven into the fabric of our nature. He who neglects what is done for what ought to be done effects his ruin rather than his preservation. Remember my words. He who governs the whispers birthed in the dark chamber shall inevitably command the fate of the one seated upon the radiant throne. In this theater of necessity, power does not reside with the most virtuous, but with those who have mastered the architecture of the rules. The world is a place where many have pictured principalities that have never been seen, but you now see the real truth of the matter. Therefore, take up your station with a mind ready to turn as the winds of fortune demand. Don your sovereign mask with grace, and keep your cold steel sheathed within a scabbard of velvet. It is time to cease being the building and start being the architect of your own dominion. Be a fox to discern the snares and a lion to terrify the wolves, but above all, be the ruler of your own kingdom. Welcome to reality.